the larger context here is this is a global phenomenon of pretending that all of us are going to die because of climate change. And Buck, every time, I guarantee you, if you turned on the news in California, it's hot in California. What did they blame it on? Climate change. If the electric grid collapses and people are not able to have electricity, what are they going to blame it on? Climate change. They're not going to accept the reality, which is their Green New Deal future doesn't provide enough sustainable energy to be able to power our needs right now.
Clay, I was in California over the weekend. I was there for a wedding. And my general theory about all this is California is a fantastic state that is being ruined by libs. The commies have overrun the government there. And also just the system. I mean local government. I mean the teachers' unions, everything there, right? The Democrat power apparatus in California is destroying the state. And by the time even Californians really recognize it will be too late. There were multiple warnings over the weekend telling people in California to avoid using too much electricity at certain times because that might cause blackouts, which is something we generally expect in the third world. And I think everyone's realizing we are heading for some major energy catastrophes ahead here in this country, in Europe, a lot to break down here. And I want to remind everybody that Joe Biden said back during when he was running for president, or back in March, in March of 2020, debating Bernie Sanders, no more drilling on federal land.
No more subsidies for fossil fuel industry. No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period.
Yeah, that's what he was saying when he wanted to get the libs to elect him, and people forgot what the price of energy actually means. Clay, the Biden administration, according to the Wall Street Journal, has leased fewer acres for oil and gas drilling than any administration since basically we were drilling for oil in the first place. You got to go back to like the World War II era for this. The energy prices, the natural gas prices have tripled. This is an economic crisis caused by Democrat lunacy.
Yeah, and Buck, it's intentional. And I'm glad you brought that up because the numbers on this are staggering. I was reading it this morning. President Biden's Interior Department leased 126,000 acres for drilling in his first 19 months in office. That's the lowest since Richard Nixon in 1969-1970. Do you know what Nixon leased out? 4.4 million acres. So it's not only that Biden is doing this at this kind of level, it's that it's truly unprecedented what he is doing. And what this does, obviously, and we got a lot of people in Texas all over the oil and gas industry who are listening to us. We'll be down in Austin doing the show live on Thursday and Friday, interacting with a lot of those people. What that's doing, Buck, is it's handcuffing us not only right now, but in particular in the years ahead, because it takes years to get all of these oil and gas wells up and running. And so what he's doing is not only hamstringing the current industry, but potentially these issues are going to become even more paramount in the years ahead after he's out of office.
With so many policy issues, we see a pattern repeating. I think on energy, it's one of the most clear, but it's true on crime. It's true on the border, inflation, government spending. They do stuff, Clay. The Democrats promise to do certain things. Biden administration, Biden regime comes in effectively saying, Joe Biden tells everybody that he hates fossil fuels, that it's destroying the planet, that we need to act urgently on climate change. Remember, Barack Obama gave a speech, I think it was at the Coast Guard Academy, saying the biggest national security threat the United States faces is climate change. That's when he's commander-in-chief. It is a, quote, existential threat. I mean, this is a mass hysteria. This is a lunacy that the Democrat Party has adopted. And they do this. The price of gas is obviously still very high. I was seeing over $5 a gallon, I believe, when I was out in California. The price of natural gas has tripled. in the last year, which doesn't affect people as much right now in this country. Wait until things get cold. That's the number one way that people heat their homes. And the Democrats turn around and say, what do you mean? We don't have a problem with fossil fuels. The gas is okay. Biden's letting leases go for exploration. They are so full of it. They just don't want to be held accountable. They know right now people are seeing and feeling, in terms of the economic impact, these idiotic policies when it comes to energy. So what are they doing? They're not saying, we're gonna change course, or we're wrong. They're just saying, there's no connection, man. We're fine. We like fossil fuels. They are lying to everybody right when they know there could be political consequences for the idiocy.
Not only that, and you hinted at this, the larger context here is this is a global phenomenon of pretending that all of us are going to die because of climate change. And Buck, every time, I guarantee you, if you turned on the news in California, it's hot in California. What did they blame it on? Climate change. If the electric grid collapses and people are not able to have electricity, what are they going to blame it on? Climate change. They're not going to accept the reality, which is their Green New Deal future doesn't provide enough sustainable energy to be able to power our needs right now. And so this idea of we're going to have to get used to rolling blackouts, we're going to have to eat bugs, they are using all of this, and it might sound crazy, but this is what they're slowly introducing into the American discussion. They're using all of this as an excuse because they will not maximize oil and gas production in this country. There's no need for there to ever be a blackout anywhere in the United States that's based on inability to serve supply. And that's what's going to happen. And if today in California, where it's going to be super hot, suddenly they need to have some rolling blackouts, they'll say this is a result of climate change, when the reality is that's not true. Just like they're trying to argue that, all this learning loss that happened in schools as a result of COVID. No. It's the policy choices that we as a country are making that are causing these issues, not climate change or COVID or whatever it might be. It's poor leadership and poor judgment.
And this is where I think there has to be a wake-up call, not only for any Republicans who don't see it this way, but particularly for independents. If the idea is Democrats will get their way, they will fail, and then they'll figure out how stupid their ideas are, you're going to be waiting forever. All they do is double down. It doesn't matter how catastrophic the failure is. You see these Democrats on climate, to your point, they're going to say that the very problem causing the blackouts that are coming possibly in California, the problems that are causing the spike in gas prices and natural gas prices being through the roof right now are climate related in the first place. So that only increases the imperative to do more of what they've already done so we can bring down climate change, which is completely insane. This is like pouring cups of water in the ocean and hoping to change the temperature. They're out of their minds, but they don't want to admit, just like with masking, Clay, there were people all over this plane from LA to New York, obviously, masked over the weekend. They don't want to admit that they're crazy on that, too. So they just keep on doing it. My point here being, you got to stop these people, meaning you have to take power out of their hands. You have to hold them accountable. They will not self-correct. This is what we're seeing with Democrats on energy, climate, crime, the border. They won't self-correct because they lie to themselves as well as to everybody else about the cause of these problems.
Buck, do you remember Ross Perot? When he ran for president
Ross Perot, of course. Everyone remembers Ross
back
Perot.
in 92. I was reading this morning, and you're 100% right, and we get it on energy, I think. What we really need is somebody who's like a professor to just start buying television time and just sit down and lay out all the facts, right? I mean, because you have to be able to distill it into a 30-second or 1-minute ad, but also with the rise of YouTube, I feel like there's a I'm not kidding about this. I feel like there's a massive demand that isn't being filled by American politicians to discuss big issues in an intelligent and detailed way. We know Joe Biden can't do it, right? Like Joe Biden couldn't, whatever you think of his policies, Joe Biden couldn't sit down for 30 minutes and have a nuanced discussion about oil and gas production and why we need more oil and gas production, data analysis. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, we need an incredible communicator in chief. Who is good? I mean, Fauci was a disaster. Who's a great communicator that is in the world of politics right now? Because what we do, I mean, I think we do a pretty good job on this show, but we're not political figures. We're just trying to make people smarter on the issue. But there's almost a dearth of anybody in politics, it seems to me, who can talk about a complex issue in a nuanced and intelligent fashion.
I don't even think some of these things
it for like 30 minutes or an hour.
Yeah, I don't even think some of these things are really complicated. I mean, I think that's part of the issue. It depends. But energy can be a complicated issue, but there just needs to be clarity. The Democrat Party, and they can just line up the evidence. I mean, I agree with you that having people that put the case out in a way that they're almost like prosecuting the Democrat lunacy would be helpful. But they're ideologically opposed to fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are getting hit as a result. Things are more expensive. And now they're turning around and they're lying to everybody by saying this has nothing to do with their ideological opposition. I mean, look at what's going on right now in Europe. There were some people who were saying
it's going to be a massacre. It's going to be a disaster.
In the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, we're saying, hey guys, Germany is really dependent on Russia for natural gas. So this whole sanctioning Russia and cutting off or trying to cut off parts of the Russian economy, but not the energy sector, this could come back to bite those who think that they have all the leverage against Russia. You know what Europe has found out economically? They don't actually have that much leverage at all against Russia, which is why now Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, is calling for a 10% reduction in France's energy use. Germany is just heading off of an energy cliff. It gets real cold in Dusseldorf in the winter, everybody. And they are not going to extend their last 3 nuclear plants. Did you see this?
Yeah.
If anyone was serious about energy and the climate, they would be chaining themselves to fences saying we need more, not less nuclear power. But ideologically, Clay, they can't get around the reality. So you're going to have massive economic and social implications of basically people freezing in Europe in the wintertime because Putin has just Putin has just said that, they can't maintain the natural gas delivery to Europe they've currently been doing. So the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, going to have to turn that one off.
Europe's in trouble. Europe's in real trouble when it comes to energy costs. And it is going to be such a massive deal. I was reading this morning, Buck, and I know a lot of people probably don't pay attention to the value of the dollar, but the dollar is surging right now. The pound, obviously, in England, has hit its lowest level against the dollar since 1985. So one of the reasons why European currencies are struggling, the same thing is happening with the euro, is because this is not hyperbole. I think there may well be thousands and thousands of people who are freezing to death in Europe this winter because the issue with the Ukraine war, everybody's all fired up. Oh, let's put our Ukraine flags up in our profile pictures and everything else, and we're going to isolate Russia, and there's no way that Russia is going to be able to continue this war. That seems to have all been wrong. And Russia is now, as we prepare to enter winter, taking control of the European energy markets. And you are seeing skyrocketing prices of every possible energy in Europe at a time when they already have sky-high inflation. And I think it's possible that their entire economic system may well be in danger of collapse. I'm trying not to buy too much into hyperbole or scare people too much, Buck. But the more and more I read, and I'm not claiming
what
to
makes
be
it, what
an
makes
expert,
it collapse?
I think the rates of overall cost for energy and the failure to be able to provide enough energy are going to lead to potentially 20+% interest rates, and the normal economic gears of European commerce are going to come grinding, I think, to a halt.
The
I mean, I
EU
think
is
they're
the
headed
largest.
for,
If we treat it
major
as one entity, it's the largest economy in the world. So it is a major deal if the EU runs into anything near the kind of problems that you think may be happening in terms of the cold winter and what's going to. We don't even see it often here. Thousands and thousands of people die in Europe on a somewhat regular basis from heat waves because they don't believe in air conditioning the way that we do here, and they don't have the same standards of climate control indoors. Just back in July, a couple months ago, heat wave killed more than 2,000 people in Spain and Portugal alone. So the notion that you might have a lot of people freezing this winter in certainly some of the poor Eastern European parts of Europe, maybe even some of the Western European countries too, is not beyond the pale at all.